This morning, we're going to discuss the need to bring more flexibility and efficiency and effectiveness to our U.S. international food aid program. And let me mention at the outset that there's a problem at the tarmac at Reagan Airport. So we're going to see Mr. Engel in a while, but he's en route. So let me make the observation that a number of the members of this committee had an opportunity to travel with me to Tacloban after the horrible typhoon hit that island and see what the situation was like on the ground. And had it not been for the ability to work around our food aid program and get food there directly, had the food been shipped from the United States, it would have taken 6 months. Fortunately, food was pre-positioned in advance of the hurricane season, so it took 6 weeks. But had USAID not found a way to work around the restrictions and get the local purchases and get the voucher program in place and start feeding people that week, you would have had an absolute crisis on Tacloban. I and other members of our committee saw that. So over the last 60 years, the U.S. government, in partnership with American farmers, as we know the history, and in partnership with shippers and NGOs, has helped relieve the suffering of billions of starving people worldwide. But that proud legacy shouldn't blind us to needed reforms here today. Desperately needed reforms, as we will hear today. Our food aid is needlessly expensive, it takes too long to arrive, and it often does long-term damage to local economies. And so those are the issues we're going to be discussing. Despite the fact that obtaining food closer to an area in crisis or providing vouchers can save time and money and lives, current law requires that our food aid be purchased in and shipped from the United States 6 months away. And that 6 months to get the food there, that's part of the problem. We are the only country that continues this approach to food aid. These requirements have real-life consequences. And as Andrew Natsios, a former administrator of USAID, told this committee, I watched people die waiting for food aid to arrive. So again, it took 4 weeks when we pre-positioned for U.S. food to arrive in the Philippines following the typhoon. It took 6 weeks to arrive in Nepal following the 2015 earthquake. And our food aid program simply wasn't able to provide food when and where it was needed the most. Not only do U.S. purchase and shipping requirements slow us down and add unnecessary transportation costs, by the way, they can also distort local markets, and that's the other thing we need to look at. In 2008, Americans saw truckloads of U.S. food being delivered to northern Kenya, where famine threatened to kill millions. What we didn't see, but now we understand, is that these truckloads of U.S. food depressed local prices and pushed farmers in other parts of Kenya who had an abundance harvest, but we had not transferred from where that harvest occurred to where the famine was occurred. That was not the way we addressed the issue. So instead, it pushed those farmers into deeper poverty, into bankruptcy. Local purchases of food would have avoided this devastating consequence, but that was not an option at the time under the rules. And this scenario has played out again and again from Afghanistan to Haiti. The challenges of food aid have changed since the program was first established in the 1950s. More and more in areas of conflict, food is being used as a weapon against the population. Groups like ISIS and Al-Shabaab are manipulating food aid. Convoys are being attacked. Some countries hosting large numbers of refugees have seen food aid destabilize their economies, and that makes the refugees unwelcome in their minds. Here again, the use of more flexible food aid tools could work, but we need a little flexibility in the equation, and that's what we're trying to engineer here. Current law has not kept pace with today's world. Our government no longer holds surplus food stocks. Agricultural prices are stable. U.S. agricultural exports are at an all-time high, and demand is expected to increase. U.S. ports are doing quite well. Using food aid as a means to subsidize our economy can't really be justified in situations where there's an emergency. And the auxiliary reserve that U.S. shipping requirements supposedly support, it's never been called up. In fact, the majority of U.S. ships that move food aid are not even militarily useful. Those that are, ultimately, those are foreign owned. They're not owned by U.S. shipping companies. For the past 3 years, we have been fighting to advance common sense solutions that would enable the U.S. to reach more people in less time at less expense, and we've been fighting to put the emphasis back on saving lives. We've made some progress, but it's not enough. If we allowed for just 25% of the Food for Peace budget to be used for more flexible food aid approaches when there is an emergency, like local purchase or vouchers or transfers, we could reduce our response time from months to hours and reach at least 2 million more people with life-saving aid. If we bumped that number up to 45%, we could reach 6 million more. As we will hear today, we are in desperate need to do better. We need to embrace common sense reforms that allow us to use the right tool at the right time in the right place.